6. The nuclear reactors of Gabon. Nuclear reactors are man-made machines that are designed to generate energy through the process of nuclear fission. They've been around since 1942, but natural nuclear reactors have existed for much longer. In fact, natural nuclear reactors have been on this planet for billions of years, long before man-made nuclear reactors were ever created. The country of Gabon in Central Africa in particular was once home to a whopping 16 natural nuclear reactors. These nuclear reactors in Gabon were able to generate around 100 kilowatts of energy. That's enough energy to light approximately 1,000 light bulbs at the same time. Gabon is short for the Gabonese Republic, and it's located on the western coast of Central Africa. In the 1800s, the country started out as a French territory, and today it has a population of around 2.2 million people. The Gabonese Republic earned its independence from France, along with several other countries in Africa, in 1960. And geologically speaking, Gabon is fascinating because it's mostly made up of metamorphic and igneous rock that's nearly 2 billion years old, dating back to the Paleo-Proterozoic era. Gabon's ancient crust contains important natural resources, including iron, magnesium, gold, uranium, and petroleum. And throughout the country's landscape, researchers and explorers alike can find amazing ancient land formations, like the hydrocarbon-filled rift basins that were formed during the breakup of Pangaea 175 million years ago. And another ancient formation that was discovered almost 50 years ago is the natural nuclear reactors of Gabon. In the 1970s, miners stumbled upon these 16 nuclear reactors in a southeastern region of the Gabonese Republic called Oklo. At the time, they were looking for uranium that would be used to power French-owned nuclear energy plants. But as researchers were made aware of the natural nuclear fission that was occurring in these Gabon nuclear reactors, they wanted to understand how this chemical process was taking place so casually. In man-made nuclear reactors, water typically acts as a coolant and is required to slow down chemical reactions by decreasing the speed that neutrons move. And by doing this, it in turn decreases the rate at which uranium atoms split, resulting in more steam production and manageable heat. Without water to act as a coolant, nuclear fission would happen so fast that the reactor vessel could grow so hot that it could burn, melt, or even explode. When scientists were analyzing the natural nuclear reactors in Gabon, they realized that for natural nuclear fission to happen, a far higher concentration of uranium-235 had to be present at one point in order to start the chain reaction. And given the high half-life of uranium, 700 million years, this concentration would have been present almost 2 billion years before the discovery of the uranium ores. Atoms would have collided and split naturally with such a high concentration of uranium-235, and this would have led to further reactions. And researchers now believe that this immense concentration of uranium was likely caused by a combination of high bacterial activity in ancient times and the weathering of igneous rocks. But wouldn't there have needed to be a coolant to prevent these natural reactors from causing an explosion? Yes. According to scientists, there was once a significant amount of water in the region of Oklo, which would have acted as a natural coolant 2 billion years ago. The water would have prevented any unstable and uncontrollable reactions from happening. And while the existence of natural nuclear reactions is amazing as it is, scientists were more fascinated by the fact that testing in the area didn't show evidence of high radioactivity. There's also no sign of any radioactive exposure in the wildlife nearby. This is because the once toxic plutonium and cesium have since decayed into barium, which isn't harmful to humans. The discovery of these natural nuclear reactors in Gabon suggests that Mother Nature has found a way to naturally rid the region of significant radioactivity over time, something that even the most esteemed scientists haven't been able to figure out. And while it's safe to visit Gabon now, it was certainly one of the most dangerous places in the world millions of years ago. 5. Death Valley National Park. America's Death Valley National Park is a beautiful place, but as beautiful as this place is, it's doubly as dangerous. It's located on the California-Nevada border, just east of the Sierra Nevada mountain range. The park's boundaries include the southern section of Eureka Valley, the northern section of Panamint Valley, most of Saline Valley, and of course, Death Valley. Situated between the arid Mojave and the Great Basin deserts, the park occupies an interface zone, protecting the Mojave Desert's northwest corner and its diverse environment of sand dunes, salt flats, badlands, canyons, mountains, and valleys. Death Valley is the biggest national park in the contiguous U.S., and it's also the driest, hottest, and lowest of all the other national parks in the country. The second lowest point in the Western Hemisphere and the lowest in all of North America, Badwater Basin can be found here at an astonishing 282 feet, 86 meters below sea level. And over 93% of the park is designated as wilderness areas. Several different species of plants and animals call this place home and have adapted to the harsh environment. Creatures like coyotes, sheep, and bighorns live here, as well as the endangered Death Valley pupfish, a survivor from significantly wetter times in the region. But when it comes to plant life, you won't find much other than Joshua trees and creosote bushes. During the summer months, temperatures here can reach as high as 134 degrees Fahrenheit, 57 degrees Celsius. And due to the extreme heat in Death Valley, several people have lost their lives. Every single year, multiple deaths and accidents occur here, with one of the most recent incidents happening in May of 2023. A semi-truck transporting 2 trailers full of brush trimmings overheated and broke down on Highway 190 while on its way out of the valley. Luckily, firefighters were able to contain the fire using firefighting foam, and no injuries were reported. But some people aren't so lucky. In late June of 2022, a park visitor ran out of gas in the middle of Death Valley and was forced to walk to the nearest gas station. But the 67-year-old wasn't equipped to deal with the intense heat of the desert, and his body was discovered on June 14th, roughly 2.4 miles or 4 kilometers from his vehicle. According to reports, temperatures in the park at the time had reached a staggering 123 degrees Fahrenheit, 50.5 degrees Celsius. Have you ever been to Death Valley? Let us know in the comments and hit subscribe while you're at it. 4. Fort Hood. Like most things in Texas, Fort Hood is huge. In fact, it's one of the biggest military bases in the whole world. It's located right outside Killeen, Texas, and it's the only military post in the U.S. that's capable of training and stationing 2 armored divisions. However, violent crimes take place inside Fort Hood all the time, and in 2020 alone, over 39 soldiers stationed here lost their lives or mysteriously vanished. 5 soldiers were murdered, 13 took their own lives, and 11 of the deaths were never resolved. And the rest, well, nobody knows what happened to them. There weren't really many issues in Fort Hood until the late 2000s. On June 12, 2007, the deceased body of Lawrence George Spader Jr. was discovered on the base. Lawrence had been missing for several days when his body was located. Apparently, he'd been sent on a map reading exercise and somehow got lost. And according to his autopsy, he died of hypothermia and dehydration. An investigation was launched afterward, despite the man's death being ruled an accident. What they found was that Army trainers at the base had a massive error in judgment when they were planning the map reading exercise, putting 300 other soldiers in immense danger and resulting in Lawrence's death. This incident was tragic and accidental, but the mass shooting at Fort Hood in 2009 was intentional. It took place on November 5, 2009, and was later classified as the deadliest shooting on an American military base. Nidal Hassan, a psychiatrist and U.S. Army major, fatally shot a total of 13 people, but he injured 30 others. The massacre began when Nidal, armed with a semi-automatic pistol, suddenly shouted Allah Akbar, which means God is great in Arabic. He then opened fire at a defenseless crowd inside one of the processing centers at Fort Hood. The soldiers in the processing center were unarmed and were all either returning from deployment and receiving medical screenings or were getting ready to be deployed overseas. Nidal's rampage only lasted roughly 10 minutes before he was shot by civilian police. He sustained severe injuries and was left paralyzed from the waist down, but he survived. During his trial, he admitted to the shooting and was found guilty of 45 counts of attempted, premeditated murder, and he was later sentenced to death for his horrific crimes. Another mass shooting took place at Fort Hood in 2014, leaving 3 soldiers dead and 16 other military personnel wounded. This second shooting occurred on April 2, 2014. and was carried out by Army specialist Ivan Lopez. But 8 minutes after he began his attack, Ivan turned the gun on himself. What's hard to believe about this incident is that just 1 month before it happened, a psychiatrist examined Ivan and found that he had no suicidal or violent tendencies. It's difficult to imagine that if Ivan had only been properly examined, the massacre wouldn't have happened. But it did, and Fort Hood continues to have issues with violence to this day. 3. Brazil's Snake Island. In the Atlantic Ocean, sitting just 25 miles or 40.2 kilometers off the coast of Brazil, is a place called Snake Island. It's fairly small and in total only covers 106 acres or 43 hectares of land. But Snake Island has a deadly reputation, and it's strictly forbidden to travel there. The biggest threat on the island is its colonies of golden lancehead snakes, a pit viper species. Just one bite from these snakes will kill a grown man in less than 3 hours. The venom will burn through the victim's flesh, causing them to bleed to death. They mostly prey on birds and lizards, but they won't hesitate to defend themselves if they feel threatened. These snakes are only about 2 to 4 feet, or 0.6 to 1.2 meters long, but their venom makes them one of the deadliest snake species in the world. The island has a temperate climate, and its terrain varies from rainforest to bare rock. It's also the only place on Earth where these golden lancehead snakes can be found in the wild. The species was stranded on the island following the last ice age when ocean levels rose and separated the island from the mainland. And today, these snakes are considered critically endangered. But without human interference, scientists hope that the population will increase, although it's difficult to keep track of their accurate numbers because, again, it's illegal to travel there. 2. The Gates of Hell. The Darvaza gas crater near the town of Darvaza, Turkmenistan, is sometimes referred to as the Gates of Hell. It's a burning natural gas field that's collapsed into a cavern, creating a crater that's now illuminated by dozens of natural gas fires. The crater formed back in 1971 when a Soviet-owned drilling rig accidentally punched into a large underground natural gas cavern, causing the unstable ground to collapse and the drilling rig to fall into it. After the pocket of gas was punctured, poisonous fumes started leaking out at an alarming rate. The Soviets thought they could prevent a potential environmental catastrophe by setting the hole on fire. They believed that after a few weeks, the flames would die out. But it's now decades later, and the fiery pit is still burning. When looking at this 230-foot wide, 70.1 meters hole, it truly does resemble some kind of opening to the underworld. It looks like the caldera of an active volcano, and it's visible from miles away after sunset. And amazingly, despite the crater's ever-present flames and chilling nickname, people still trek into the desert of Turkmenistan to witness the sight, and perhaps to catch a glimpse of hell itself. 1. Futenma Air Station. Located in Okinawa Prefecture, on the main island of Okinawa, Japan, is the Futenma Air Station, operated by the U.S. Marine Corps. It was built in 1945, just before the end of the Second World War, and it's remained active to this day. But the base's presence on the island meets constant resistance from the native residents of Okinawa, leading to a long list of controversies. Futenma has been involved in a number of conflicts between the inhabitants of Okinawa, the Japanese government, and the U.S. military. Multiple helicopter and plane crashes have periodically taken place since the base was constructed on the island. The most notorious crash that the airbase was involved in happened back in 2004 at Okinawa International University, located in Ginowan. And although there were no casualties, the military's handling of the helicopter wreckage sparked various protests at the base. The U.S. Marine Corps blocked off the university for a full 4 days after the incident, preventing Japanese police from investigating or accessing the site of the crash. And additionally, the base resumed flights of the CH-53D models, the same type of helicopter involved in the wreck, before ever disclosing to the public the cause of the wreck. More recently, in 2017, another crash occurred at an elementary school near Futenma, reigniting tensions between the residents of Okinawa and the U.S. military. Another source of tension is the noise that emanates from the airfield. A study even concluded that the noise from the airbase has contributed to digestive and respiratory problems for residents living nearby. The noise also affects people's mental health, leading to depression and nervousness for those in Okinawa. Due to these stressors, a movement in favor of relocating Futenma Air Station developed in 1995. It was proposed that the base be moved to Henoko, a coastal district in the city of Nago, but residents of Okinawa fought back against this as they wanted Futenma removed from the island entirely. Their pleas, however, fell on deaf ears, and construction began in Henoko in December 2018. And according to the most recent reports, it's still being built today. Which one of these dangerous places do you think would be worth visiting? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you like this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!